much it strengthens his argument, well, I think it really depends on the manner in which he wins. If LeBron doesn't perform well in the NBA Finals, then the narratives will be in place that he was carried by Luka, and his critics will emphasize the fact that LeBron has always had supreme talent throughout his career assisting him. But on the other hand, if LeBron won the title as the Finals...
All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Hope y'all are having a good day so far. So yeah, I know I'm watching another Johnny Arnett video, but I can't help it. This one, the title, what an NBA championship would mean, and the faces that he has on the thumbnail, I'm definitely interested in his opinion on this, because I see Steph, I see LeBron, and who else did I see? I saw Jokic, and that's all I can remember right now. But it's interesting to think what another championship would mean, not so much for Jokic in my opinion, but for Steph and LeBron. I think it's very interesting because that would get either of them to 5. And for me, it's more about Steph getting to 5 because, I mean, the company that he joins is pretty amazing. You know, he's all of a sudden he's there with Magic Johnson and championships, and Tim Duncan too, which is pretty phenomenal to get into that table. LeBron getting into that table would be cool, but I don't think it changes much, tell you the truth. I mean, he gets him into the 5 club, but he's not aiming for the 5 club. He's aiming for the GOAT club, which I don't think 5 is going to make a difference. So, but anyways, let's check this out. As I always do, I'm going to link the original video down below for you guys. So if you want to check out Johnny Arnett's channel, fantastic channel, as you guys should all know by now. But if you're first time watching one of my vids, then definitely click on that link down below and check out Johnny Arnett's channel. It's one of the best out there. Anyways, all that being said, like the vid, it helps out a ton. Let's get right into this and segue right into the coolest YouTube intro of all time. I just feel like I could watch that fadeaway on loop all day.
The NBA playoffs are officially upon us, and this is probably my favorite time of year as a basketball fan. Let's be real, between June of 2024 and June of 2025, not much changes in the personal life of an individual basketball player. But on the other hand, a player's legacy and reputation can completely change in that small window of time, simply because the playoffs exist, and because of how much value we place on the postseason. This is the time of year where player legacies are defined. These are the moments that people will remember for decades to come. Today, I'm looking at the superstar players in the playoffs and breaking down what winning an NBA championship would mean for their legacies. Now let me make this clear, not every star player is getting mentioned, but just the superstars with the most realistic chance of winning a championship.
Dude, if James Harden actually won a championship, I'd have to eat so many of my words, but I just don't imagine it's ever gonna happen.
For example, most guys in the play-in tournament won't get mentioned, but I may make a couple exceptions. Let's start off in the Eastern Conference with Jayson Tatum of the Boston Celtics. This guy is a real interesting one because he didn't receive full credit that a superstar player typically does when they win their first championship.
Yeah.
A big part of that is because of how stacked that Boston roster is, and their success was viewed as a very collective effort, rather than a star player asserting his will. He also didn't excel in the NBA Finals, as the Finals MVP award was given to his co-star Jalen Brown. Because of this, I still think he has a lot to prove if he wants to take his legacy to the next level.
I agree.
For a while, Tatum has kind of been viewed as a Tier 2 superstar. The Tier 1s are the regular MVP candidates, like Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Giannis.
I've always compared him to Devin Booker, honestly, except for now he's got more success than Booker. But they always kind of reminded me of each other. And yeah, I agree. Tier 2 stars.
A second straight
Or we can call them stars, but not superstars.
Championship for Tatum would validate his legacy, and would certainly usher him into that tier 1 category. It wouldn't earn him the title of the best player in the league, but I do think it would make people confident that he at least belongs in that conversation.
I agree.
With that being said, he still has to play well in order to earn that type of respect.
Yeah, he has to play well in the finals, because if he did play well in last year's finals or last season's finals, he'd be in tier 1 right now. I agree.
If he has a mediocre playoffs and is once again looking on to a teammate who wins the finals MVP, then I think his reputation will take an interesting turn.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, then we'll be sticking Mr. Jalen here in tier 1 instead, and it will be deserved.
As he would be viewed and criticized as a lucky star, who didn't earn his standing and who just conveniently plays in an ideal situation. Now let's look at Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers. As things currently stand, Mitchell is on his way to being one of those players who's barely talked about 30 years from now. Like, he was great, but without the MVPs and without the championships, he'll pretty much only be remembered and honored by the most hardcore basketball fans.
Yeah.
I'm talking about guys like Sidney Moncrief, Alex English, and Adrian Dantley of the 1980s. Guys who are on that trajectory today are Karl Anthony Towns, Paul George, and Donovan Mitchell.
Yep.
With that being said, everything changes with an NBA championship. One of the benefits of winning a title in Cleveland is the fact that he would become an instant legend within that city. Right now, they only have superstars like LeBron James and Kyrie Irving in their history to celebrate as champions. But if Mitchell wins, he joins that very exclusive club.
For me, it's really that one. It's more so how cool would it be if the Cavs win a championship without LeBron while LeBron is still active. I think that would be awesome because, it just changes the narrative a little bit, doesn't it?
He'll be immortalized within basketball lore as a Cleveland Cavalier, and he will enable that franchise to take itself more seriously, rather than being seen as an organization who was just lucky to win a ring with LeBron. Basically, if Mitchell leads his team to the Larry O'Brien Trophy, then I think you might as well book his future statue outside of Rocket Arena.
Agreed.
It won't usher him into the conversation of the best players in the league today, because he simply doesn't have the year-to-year numbers to justify that. But as far as how he'll be remembered, it will mean he's relevant in basketball conversations for decades to come. Next up is Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks.
Interesting.
In a way that's similar to Donovan Mitchell, Brunson would get a massive boost in legacy thanks to the organization he plays for. The New York Knicks haven't won an NBA championship since 1973.
That's so crazy.
Most of their fans probably weren't even alive to experience that.
I tend to forget that about the Knicks. They've been so close so many times, especially in like the 90s. But I guess, that was a long time ago. They haven't really been a contender. Damn.
I would say that the Big Apple is starving for an NBA championship.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that was the case 1 or 2 decades ago. But at this point, I think most of the feeling in that city has turned into apathy. Like, the fan base will believe it when they see it. Madison Square Garden,
that's how we feel in Phoenix,
is the mecca of basketball. And if Brunson wins a championship in that building, accomplishing something that even Patrick Ewing and Carmelo Anthony couldn't do, then he will be viewed as a godlike figure in that city. The adoration and love for this star will be something that very few players have ever experienced. Sure, he'll be within the franchise's lore with Knicks legends like Willis Reed and Walt Frazier, but to young New York fans who never experienced that, he'll be in a class of his own.
Oh, they'll worship him out there if he pulls it off. I'm a big Brunson fan, by the way. I really like his play style. I wish him nothing but success.
Now we got Tyrese Haliburton of the Indiana Pacers, and this is another interesting case. He's currently only 25 years old, and last year, he was getting hyped to such an insane extent that he was even receiving comparisons to Magic Johnson.
I don't know why I'm not a believer yet, but...
Well, that hype basically completely died off when he got off to a slow start this season, as basically all of his averages and efficiency numbers were down. But he and his Pacers eventually did find their stride and had a stronger second half of the season. So his perception and reputation has been on a bit of a roller coaster lately. Of course, and naturally peaks to an all-time high if he leads them to an NBA championship. He won't receive as much credit as many other players on this list, considering the fact that Tyrese isn't even the team's leading scorer, which is Pascal Siakam, and the Pacers usually get wins by committee.
By the way, I just have to say it. In my opinion, these jerseys are terrible. The Indy jerseys. Wow. Apparently they're popular, though.
As they had 7 players this season who averaged double-digit scoring. If the Pacers win the championship, it will mean a ton.
Oh, yeah.
Since it will be their only title since their ABA days in the 70s.
Damn.
But if that was to happen, I think they'll be somewhat seen
Yeah, they're in a similar situation. They were contenders throughout the 90s and then the early 2000s. And it's been about 20 years since they've truly been in contention, up until recently, that is.
The modern-day version of the 2004 Pistons. Great overall talent and did it as a group. But instead of elite defense, it will be because of their solid offense. So yeah, Tyrese has a lot to gain. But because of the structure of his team, I think it's a lot less to gain than many of the other players in this video. Next, we're looking at Giannis of the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's be real, it's a surprise that the Bucks are even in this position. After the highly scrutinized hirings of Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham, the Bucks got off to a terrible 2-7 start to the regular season, and many people expected their year to end up the way Phillies did. With that being said, Giannis went beast mode as he was determined to get his team into the dance. Then Damian Lillard went down with a regular season-ending injury in mid-March. Regardless, Giannis carried and had his team on an 8-game winning streak heading into these playoffs. So as you can tell, there's already some 2018 LeBron vibes coming from the Greek Freak this season. It's still unclear whether or not Lillard will be back at some point in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But regardless, if Giannis somehow leads his team to another championship, regardless of their injuries, chemistry issues, and coaching concerns, then it will take him to an insane stratosphere. He's already an NBA champion, a 2-time MVP, and a Defensive Player of the Year winner.
Yeah, for sure.
He also won the Finals MVP in 2021 with some of the greatest Finals performances in NBA history.
I remember. Yeah.
If he wins his second ring under these circumstances, then he's suddenly in the conversation of the top 10 greatest players of all time.
I don't know if I'd go that far, because I mean, we don't consider like Isaiah Thomas in the top 10, but then again, a lot of us consider Hakeem in the top 10. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I disagree with you, but the logic is somewhat there. Yeah, okay. What I really think though is because comparing him to his peers, this puts a lot of distance between him and Luka, and a lot of distance between him and Embiid, obviously. You know, guys that are constantly like battling for the MVP every single season. And, well, the only one who's still on his level is going to be Jokic. But outside of that, it does put a lot of separation between all the other people that we tend to compare him to that came out around the same time.
Seriously, picture his resume then against a player like Hakeem Olajuwon. And the comparison is a lot more competitive than you might have thought.
Yeah, it's true.
That's
why I kind of just stopped in my tracks there. Apparently we had the same thought there.
Also worth noting that Giannis has been a bit underappreciated of late. Like, we know he's great, and he's always been great, but we've been so enamored with Jokic, SGA, and the Luka trade that Giannis has somewhat flown under the radar. A second championship this season would probably be enough for him to challenge and maybe even replace Nikola Jokic as the consensus best player in the NBA today. Now let's move on to the Western Conference, starting with Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Now I know the Warriors are only a 7th seed, so some people might not be taking them seriously as potential title winners.
Well, they were terrible the first half of the season, but they've got some momentum. I hate to admit it because I was kind of betting against the Jimmy Butler trade. The Jimmy Butler trade has worked out fantastic for them. So I'm kind of low-key rooting for Golden State as well. There's a couple teams I'm kind of rooting for, but Golden State I am rooting for to win the championship here. And I hope Steph can pull it off. I really do. And I hope Jimmy's been on great behavior. So that's kind of what I was betting against, was that he'd be on bad behavior. But he's been on great behavior, man. So if he keeps this up and just focuses on hooping and tries to get a championship, it's very possible this season in my mind.
At the very least, I believe they've got a puncher's chance. They've gone 16-6 since acquiring Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Buckets is known as a big game performer in the postseason. So I think they're definitely a team that needs to be taken seriously. If Steph Curry wins the championship...
The good thing is that I've seen Jimmy come up big in the playoffs, but then I've also seen Jimmy shrink in the playoffs. And the problem with Miami was that if he shrinks and he becomes a pass-first guy, which is part of his nature to do, is pass first, he didn't really have anybody who was helping him out there and who was hitting shots. But here, if he's got Steph running off the ball constantly, and Jimmy's going towards more of a passive mode in the playoffs, hey man, you got Steph Curry to back you up. So it's interesting. It's an interesting duo, to say the least.
With this squad, oh man, several different conversations become very interesting. He'll basically be joining LeBron James and Bill Russell as the only superstars to win championships alongside of 3 different co-stars. In Curry's case, that would be Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Jimmy Butler. Steph is now 37 years old, and people have been trying to declare the end of the Warriors dynasty for a while at this point.
They did it before the last championship they won.
But if Steph wins again after the departure of both KD and Klay Thompson, then it will be clear that Steph was the real dynasty all along.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. Sorry, my dog is angry at something. If that's LeBron at the door, tell him I don't want to see him. No, but what the hell is I gonna say? I don't know. Was there a question at any point who the guy in Golden State has always been? It's always been clear to me. It's Steph. Like, it's Steph and everybody else forming around him. He's the culture of that team. You know, he's the one who blew the doors off of, or the roof off of, the way people play basketball and changed the entire game. Not for the positive in my mind, but that's just how good he is. He changed how everyone plays. So obviously, if he changed how the whole league plays, he controlled how his own team plays, and everyone else just has to come in and fit in. So I think he is kind of the system. I hate to say it that way, but he's the system, and everybody else, they're all pieces that fall into place around him. Like Draymond, he's a piece. A lot of us don't like him, but he is an important piece to that team. And what's he doing? He's doing the dirty work, the stuff that they don't want Steph doing.
The dynasty is alive as long as he's playing. If he wins a 5th championship, it will match him with Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, and Tim Duncan, while surpassing LeBron James.
Wow, I can't believe I forgot Kobe. Yeah, it's Kobe, Tim Duncan, and Magic Johnson. It's a hell of a club. Hell of a club to be in. Hell of a table to sit at.
And that will be really interesting because people will then start to argue about who had the greater career.
Also, I think Johnny's going to get in there too, but also Steph did it with one team. Magic did it with one team. Kobe did it with one team. Tim Duncan did it with one team. You know what I mean? So if they all get 5 with one team, and LeBron, he's stuck at 4 with how many teams now? Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland, LA. Yeah, so he's had to ring chase that many times and build that many super teams in order to do it. It's going to look a lot different in my mind. Also, if you got even if they both had 5, you have the tiebreaker. Who owns who? Well, Steph Curry beat LeBron James in the NBA Finals 3 times. LeBron beat Steph once. Done, and done.
LeBron or Steph. Right now, the consensus is LeBron. But if the ring count ends up being 5-4 in Steph's favor, and Steph was the guy who revolutionized the game with a 3-point shot, then is it really all that crazy of a comparison? Many people believe that Steph is already a top 10 player of all time. But with another ring at this age in this underdog situation, it would legitimately launch him into the conversation of the top 5. Just as someone who enjoys basketball drama, this would be fun to see happen, because we'd see LeBron and Steph Curry fanboys going at it with a completely new level of intensity. Now let's look at...
It's interesting to me because if I think about like Jordan's career, if say Hakeem Olajuwon had 5 championships during Jordan's time, which they came out the same year, and Jordan had 4, so he had 4, Hakeem had 5, they retired, around the same time. I mean, I think we'd all have to point to Hakeem as the greatest. So it's weird that when it comes to LeBron, even though he's coming up short, and even if in this situation he'd be coming up even shorter, there's someone in his era that's outperforming him and playing better, winning more, and also doing it all for the team that drafted him. Why would it even be a conversation? It's weird. Like LeBron's out of that conversation in my mind.
Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. This kid is still only 23 years old, and he made some serious noise in the NBA playoffs last season, as he famously sunned Kevin Durant and started drawing comparisons to the great Michael Jordan. Eventually, he dropped off as his lack of stamina became a glaring issue in the Western Conference Finals.
Yep, give it up to Kyrie. Kyrie ran this guy around. He said he was going to shut down, or he was proud that he was going to guard Kyrie, and then Kyrie just ran him around, man, until he just had no gas left in the tank. It was pretty fun.
With that being said, he was young enough that we could easily view that as a learning experience for him. Now the kid is going to have his work cut out for him as he's starting the playoffs up against Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and the Los Angeles Lakers. If Ant-Man somehow manages to not only defeat these Lakers, but leads his Timberwolves to their first championship in franchise history at the young age of 23, then the hype train will be officially insane.
Man, I'm going to keep my hopes moderate. I just want them to beat the damn Lakers. Knock off the Lakers in the first round and do whatever else you got to do with the Timberwolves this year. I don't care anymore. You done did your job if you can pull that off.
Michael Jordan didn't win his first championship until he was 28 years old. And that is a fact that you will hear ESPN bring up over and over.
Yeah, it was his 6th year. What's the big deal?
And if Edwards wins his first one at 23.
Oh.
Beyond that, it's hard to say what it will do from a legacy standpoint because he'll still have so much of his career ahead of him.
I don't think they're going to win a championship, though. Personally, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't feel like they're going to win it all this year.
But at the very least, you'll see the media embrace him as the new face of the league. Whether or not he will want that distinction will be irrelevant, because the league as a whole is desperate to find the new guy after LeBron retires, and all the momentum will be at his back completely. Next is Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers.
Now this is going to be interesting.
If they won the championship, then that would be a wild outcome to say the least. The Clippers were originally viewed as potential title favorites in 2019, but they ended up having some heartbreaking losses in the playoffs. Things ultimately fell through with Paul George, and Kawhi has struggled to remain on the basketball court. He's already one of the most difficult players to rank on the NBA's all-time list.
God, he's ripped. I just got to say, like, everyone talks about how strong he is. I see it. Dude is just, he's a monster. If he could just stay on the damn court. Like, that's the only gripe against him.
At his best in Toronto, he looked like Michael Jordan at his peak. And in San Antonio, he was a low-scoring, defensively minded role player. And then basically everything outside of that, he struggled to remain on the court. If he suddenly leads the Clippers to the championship and steals the spotlight away from the Lakers on the year they acquired Luka, then it will be one of the most shocking and earth-shaking developments in NBA history.
It would be great.
Kawhi will then be ushered into the conversation of the top 20 greatest players of all time, which is crazy because I think people will also see him as a what if. Like, imagine what the 3-time champion Kawhi could have been if he was always healthy throughout his career.
I agree.
Alongside of Kawhi...
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting because it's like he won, one championship per team that he's ever been on if he does that, which is just a whole different category of success. It'll be a weird. I won't know where to place him. I'll put it that way. I've never known where to place him. I don't know where to place him. I won't know until he's retired. Because for now, it's like I tend to forget about him because he's not out there very often. And then when he is out there, I'm like, God damn, this is like top five players in the league right now. But then he's gone again, and then I won't see him for a couple of months. So, I don't know.
Let's look at James Harden. Harden is now 35 years old, and no, he's not the player he once was in Houston, but he's been able to remain effective, and his contribution towards the Clippers' success has gone more positively than a lot of people expected. Right now, he's seen as a player who didn't take the extra steps necessary to win a championship. He's known to love the nightlife, and he's famously quit on teams, he's fell out of shape, and for a while, he was seen as a defensive liability. Honestly, in Harden's case, I don't think it matters as much how he wins the championship. If he leads the team and wins the Finals MVP, then he'll be celebrated and will retroactively apologize for all the years we disrespected his game. But if Kawhi Leonard outplays him and he wins the Finals MVP, then I still think it's a massive boost to Harden's reputation. People will just say that he's matured, learned to play with a team, and got the help he needed. I think it would mean that less people would view Harden harshly, and would instead view him as the all-time great talent that he is.
I'm going to be totally fair. Dirk has talked about this a lot. Before Dirk finally won that championship, he was known as a playoff choker. And then he came through the most clutch that we could have ever imagined in that 2011 playoff run, ending it against the Miami Big Three and everything. That just propelled him to this legendary status that we'll always hold him to, which he deserves. Now, James Harden, we've been calling him a playoff choker for a long time too. I don't imagine this changes, but if it does, I'm curious how it does change his legacy, because I can't just call him a playoff choker and just like talk about like regular season James anymore, regular season Harden anymore. Because like, okay, he has gotten it done, but how much does that outweigh all of? Because Dirk didn't cause trouble, Harden's been team hopping, forcing his way off of teams, getting in and out of shape. So he's got a different type of legacy than Dirk does. So winning one championship, I don't know if it erases all of it like it did for Dirk. But we'll see. I'm not betting on it, but if him and Kawhi do manage to win a championship, that's two people's legacy that, like, I don't really know what to do with.
That just had very specific needs in order to succeed. Next is Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets. Listen,
I know, I don't know what to say about Jokic either. If he wins a second one and continues to have a good career and it ends with 2 championships, does that put him in a Hakeem Olajuwon category? Because it very well might.
If wins this year, then the conversation about him will become wild. He's already collecting MVPs like they're infinity stones, and every season he's breaking statistical records related to efficiency and advanced analytics. This would be his second championship for a franchise that had previously never won a title.
Yeah.
And this 2025 title would be right after they just fired their head coach 1 week before the playoffs started.
Can we talk about that for a second? How crazy that whole thing was. I didn't want to make like a specific video just talking about it, but real quick here, just for 2 minutes. We have one of the only coaches in the league who is still coaching, like truly coaching his players. He just won a championship using his methods. He's not a soft coach. He's not. Coach Malone is not a soft cat, but he seems to be a very likable coach. I've seen him in a locker room. I've seen him at practice, and everyone seems cool. But all he did is in a press conference call out his team, call out his team for playing soft and demanding more. And then what happens? They fire him for that. Like, that's the coach's job. is to instruct and guide these players. If you strip away the coach's ability to critique, analyze, and like strategize with his players, what's the point of having a coach anymore? And I know we've been discussing this for years. What's the point of having a coach anymore when the players do what they want? But this has gone too far now. You know, this is a successful team. He's proven that it works. And he still gets fired. You know, it's not like, you know, I'm pissed off over in Phoenix because we've fired 3 coaches in 3 years. But to be fair, we haven't won with any of them. But I also do think it was crazy that we fired Frank Vogel so fast, because he did win a championship at the Lakers in 2020. Anyways, firing Coach Malone, I think, sets a terrible tone for the future for other owners. And it also sets up the players in a position where anytime a player gets mad, like a star gets mad at a coach, they now have like the LeBron James power, where they can just go to the front office and say, I want him fired or else I'm out. And it's really unfortunate for coaches and for us viewers too, because it's going to be sloppy basketball without coaches actually instructing their players. Anyways, that's what I have to say about it. I think it's ridiculous. I can't believe he got fired. It's the most shocking coach firing I've seen, other than like firing Phil Jackson.
Beyond that, he will have led Russell Westbrook to an NBA championship, who's a guy who's been consistently viewed as a chemistry killer. People are already wanting to say that Jokic...
Last thing I'll say about it is I hear rumors that he might replace Popovich in San Antonio, because Pop has been dealing with a lot of health issues, and he tried to get Tim Duncan to step in and replace him, but Tim wasn't interested in coaching. Coach Malone, man, that I see him fitting in the Popovich, you know, franchise perfectly. And Pop won't fire him if he's being, you know, just because he's being tough on players. No, Pop won't do it. So Pop just steps down from coaching and continues to run all operations, the team operations. Yeah, Coach Malone has a safe place to be in and coach the right way.
Is a top 15 player of all time.
Excuse me.
But his second championship makes him top 10 quality, and some will rush to say that he's the greatest center in NBA history. I certainly don't think he'll unanimously reach that status, but that conversation will heat up for sure. I think it could also set up a future...
that one we're going to have to wait to the end of his career, because there's too many bigs out there that have accomplished way more right now that I think it's an insulting conversation to have. But, you know, it is one of those things, like if he continues on this current trajectory, stacks more rings, yeah, we'll definitely be having that conversation in the future.
Scenario where Nikola Jokic is much more appreciated many years later, in a similar way to Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we all agree that Jokic is the best in the game today, but no one says he's the face of the league. If Jokic wins again, we may look back on this era and say, while everyone was freaking out about a Luka Doncic trade, while everyone was marveling at a 7'5" player who could dribble, while everyone was focusing on the twilight years of LeBron James and Steph Curry, there was Nikola Jokic, winning multiple rings, breaking records, and hoarding MVP trophies. Now let's look at Luka Doncic.
Okay.
If we're being honest, I think we can admit that this is one of the more complicated situations. Yeah. Who gets the majority of the credit, and who gets the bigger boost to their legacy?
I think it's it's complicated for both of them, because, you know, it depends on how they play. And it depends on who gets the Finals MVP. So if Luka comes in and balls and they win a championship, first off, I'm gonna cry like a baby. But if they do it and he's the Finals MVP, that looks different on LeBron's legacy. But also vice versa. What if Luka gets outplayed by LeBron, but this is Luka's first championship, but he gets it as a sidekick? That would be interesting too.
Personally, I think it will be mostly dictated by how they perform in the postseason compared to one another. There's also going to be a decently sized group of people who will never give the Lakers credit for winning the championship this season, because they believe the whole thing was orchestrated by the league the instant the trade went down.
I know. Yeah, I know. It wouldn't be the first time in LA, though. Hate to say it.
So it is what it is for those people. Arguably, Luka winning a championship in Dallas would have meant more, since Dirk Nowitzki is the only other superstar to have championship success in that city. But in LA, Luka would join a long history of Lakers winners,
for sure,
while having arguably the second greatest player in NBA history as your co-star. With that being said, people love Luka Doncic, and I felt that love when I was at his return game in Dallas.
This feels so like Star Wars to me, because like I feel like Luka was the one who was supposed to win a championship with Kyrie, but instead, he ended up going to LeBron to help LeBron win a championship. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully he runs out of gas in the playoffs like he did last year.
Sure, maybe the basketball world isn't rooting for the Lakers,
I'm not, yeah.
but they're rooting for Luka, a guy who loved and was dedicated to his team, yet was disrespected and called fat as they sent him off.
I've been a Luka Doncic fan outside of the complaining and the flopping, but I've been a Luka Doncic fan for a couple of years now. I just don't want to see him win with the Lakers. Sorry, Johnny, I know you're a Laker fan, but I'm not. I'm a Laker hater.
If Luka wins a championship after taking a different team to the NBA Finals in the previous season, then it will go down as one of the more feel-good revenge stories in NBA history.
I agree with that.
And would immortalize him in the lore of the most famous franchise in the league. Maybe it's not the same kind of legacy he wanted in Dallas, but it's a darn good one nonetheless.
I think for Luka, it's just personal. Like, exactly like you said, he wants revenge. And this would be the ultimate revenge on Dallas, is being like, yeah, you get rid of me. Half a season later, I end up with a championship. You know, you idiots. Like, that's all I think he cares about. I don't think he's thinking about legacy right now. He's got time for that. And if he stays in LA and LeBron eventually retires and Luka takes over LA, he's probably got a lot of success in his future. But this one, right now, this season, he's fueled by revenge. And that's what makes him dangerous. And it does. And it sucks. If it was any other team other than the Lakers, I'd be like support and, you know, joining with LeBron James. I'd be totally in support of it. I'd be like, go get your payback. Go get your championship. Shut Dallas up, you know? Like make them eat their words. But in this situation, I can't root for him.
Of course, we gotta look at Luka's teammate, LeBron James. Assuming health, we're about to see LeBron perform at a level in the playoffs that we've never seen before from a 40-year-old player. From a longevity standpoint, there's not much for James to really do in that aspect. He is already the standard of that criteria.
Yeah, he's got to win it.
A fifth ring for LeBron James would only strengthen his GOAT argument, as it would match him with Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, and Tim Duncan, while inching one ring closer to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and the only comparison that we're gonna say, if that does happen, is all those other guys who won 5 didn't have to ring chase; they stayed at their team. That's the only difference at that point. So there's still like, if there's like a 1A, 1B in that category, I would put LeBron in the 1B category and put Kobe, Duncan, Magic, etc. I would put them in a 1A category because they did it the hard way. Same way as if, say, LeBron got 6, or if anybody got 6 but they did it while ring chasing on multiple super teams, then it would still be a 1A, 1B comparison of, well, Jordan did it on one team. So, you know, as opposed to doing it on 3 or 4 teams or whatever. But it definitely helps. It would definitely help LeBron's legacy. I'll tell you that much. I don't think it helps his GOAT debate situation, because it doesn't put him in the Jordan category, no matter how much they try to jump steps. He's not in the Jordan category yet with 5, but he is in that Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan category, all 3 of which I have above LeBron James in my greatest players of all time list. So, and that's because of the amount of success that they've had.
As far as how much it strengthens his argument, well, I think it really depends on the manner in which he wins. If LeBron doesn't perform well in the NBA Finals, then the narratives will be in place that he was carried by Luka, and his critics will emphasize the fact that LeBron has always had supreme talent throughout his career assisting him. But on the other hand, if LeBron won the title as the Finals MVP while having a 2016 or 2020-like Finals performance, then even his biggest haters will be stunned in silence, as that would theoretically be one of the greatest achievements in NBA history.
Straight up, yeah. If the Lakers get to the finals and LeBron goes out there and he's like, he's in God mode and they win, that would change things a little bit. I don't imagine it happening, but if he really does that, then yeah, that's gonna help. That's gonna help it, because at 40 years old, if he can pull that crap off, then that's something to talk about.
And honestly, as someone who sees Michael Jordan as the GOAT, I think that would make it a razor-thin race. And I wouldn't have a problem with people seeing it either way if this scenario panned out. As far as the second-seeded Houston Rockets, they really don't have a definitive superstar player just yet. They have an array of young weapons with tremendous chemistry, and unless one of those guys suddenly becomes 2001 Allen Iverson in the playoffs, I don't see any of those dudes having seismic shifts to their legacy. If anything, I think Ime Udoka would reach legendary status as a head coach for taking a team with no definitive superstars to an NBA championship. Lastly, let's take a look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the OKC Thunder. He's 26 years old and is just starting to reach the prime of his career, and I don't care what anyone says, he is easily one of the most skilled players in basketball history. Honestly, of the players on this large list, he might have the most to gain. Sure, modern basketball fans know all about this guy and his gifts, but on a global scale and in pop culture, he's just not yet one of those big names that everyone knows. LeBron, Luka, Kobe, Jordan, Shai. His name just doesn't carry that kind of weight just yet. But it could, and winning an NBA championship with this squad would be the greatest step in that direction.
For sure.
At this same age, Kevin Durant had a chance at winning a championship for Oklahoma City, and even he couldn't get it done. So if SGA does it, he will instantly reach legendary status in that city
100%.
Before he's even reached his 27th birthday.
100%.
For a while, people wanted to bring him into the conversation with Kobe and Jordan, based on their skills and similarities. But it's always felt premature and usually gets shot down as a result. But if he wins it all with this team, while defeating legends like Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James, then his entrance into that comparison will be completely valid, especially when you consider how many elite years he still has.
I respect the fact that he says it himself. Shai says MJ and Kobe comparisons are premature.
Ahead of him.
And I like that. I like that because I wouldn't want to be in that conversation when I haven't, looking at the GOAT here and Kobe. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that conversation yet. That's too much pressure. Win something first, then you can start some of the comparisons.
Especially when you consider how many elite years he still has ahead of him. So now it's your turn. Whose legacy is most greatly affected with an NBA championship?
Steph.
I look forward to hearing your takes in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
All right. So for me, I think it's, first of all, great video. First of all, Kenny, fantastic video. I kind of got lost in this one. It was such a chill vibe, and I kind of forgot that I was like reacting to a video here half the time. In my mind, the one whose legacy gets impacted the most with another championship would be Steph Curry. And partially I go there because I know he's only got a couple years left, maybe 3 or 4 seasons left if health allows. And getting to 5 would be huge because he's always going to be compared to LeBron James, much like Jordan was compared to like Dominique Wilkins and Clyde Drexler And, early on he was compared to like Magic and Bird, but in the 90s he was compared to those other greats. And having more success than the people that you are compared to is what separates you from them. It's as easy as that. So, LeBron being the one that's always compared with Steph and them having this rivalry, etc. Yeah, if Steph can get 5 and LeBron ends at 4, it really puts a stamp on the entire thing. Like, I won this era. Much like, even though I was more of a Bird fan back in the day, but much like Magic having 5 championships is that stamp against Bird, saying I won this era. Even though Bird had a lot of success, he didn't have as much success as Magic. So no matter what you say, it is what it is, because they both admit it. The goal is to win. So who won more? It was Magic. That's the goal of the game. So I would say the same thing in this situation. It would boost Steph up to a whole nother level, leaving LeBron behind. The only other one, the reason I go with Steph over some of these younger guys is these younger guys got a lot of years left in them. But like right now, who needs a championship? I think it's Steph Curry, because I think this window is going to close. I think Jimmy is not always going to be lovey-dovey Jimmy, because we've seen this with every team he's been to. Starts out lovey-dovey, and then eventually he finds a problem and he focuses on it, and then it'll lead to some chaos until it blows up, basically. So I think right now is the essential perfect time for Steph to win a championship, while he's got Jimmy Butler motivated, focused on the prize, and believing they can do it. This is the time to make it happen. Anyways, what do you guys think? So my pick was Steph Curry, and you guys heard my reasons. What are your guys' reasons? Not only what are you guys' reasons, what's your pick? As far as sorry, I hiccuped right there. As far as whose legacy would be impacted the most off another championship, and what do you guys think of if LeBron did win another championship? Does that all of a sudden make him in GOAT contention, or are you guys like me where it's just like, no, he's still got at least one more level to go up until he can get there? All right, I'm out of here, everyone. Johnny, great video. Everyone, please leave the video a like. Go check out Johnny's channel if you enjoyed this, and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Everybody, I'll see you all in the comments, and be water, my friends. Peace.